Hello, English 9. This is the video of the day. You will see I have a couple of talking points just to keep me on track and make sure that this video doesn't go on too long. First of all, I just want to remind you, because I'm getting some intense emails and I feel that some of you are overwhelmed, that you want to be doing everything perfectly right now, but we're in the practice portion of our learning. And so if you remember back to when we were talking about our how to read poetry, we talked about this taking practice. And you don't get something right the first time you do it. I'm thinking about all of the mistakes I'm making in creating videos, all of the mistakes I'm making in trying to figure out how to get the computer to grade things, and it's just not working. So we're all in practice mode right now, and be generous with yourself. And I thank you so much for those of you who have been generous with me and have reached out with concerns, and hopefully I've been able to talk to those concerns. So talk to me, email me if you have questions or concerns. But definitely realize that right now we're just learning how to practice. We're learning the terms that we need to use for poetry. So a little bit about grading. I have not become experienced enough yet or learned enough how to get the computer to do the grading for me. So when you take a quiz or you take a test online in either Edpuzzle or Google Forms, a lot of times I have to go back and make those changes and grade things. And the computer decides that everything's wrong until I give feedback to the computer. So don't stress out when you see a quiz and you're like, it's a 30%, it's a 33%. Sometimes what it means is you did perfectly fine on that quiz. I need to go back and grade it. I am sorry if this is causing you frustration. I am trying to learn this just along with you. I want to give you opportunities to get some feedback on things, but sometimes I'm thinking about a question that I had in something that we did a couple of days ago, where I said, is poetry practice or is it torture? Is it enjoyable? No, it was enjoyable or torture. Either one was a correct answer, but the computer marked both of them wrong. So I'm learning this, you're learning this. Thank you for being patient and knowing that what is going into the grade book is representative of me understanding that right now we are in practice mode. So keep on practicing. I will give you passing grades for the practice right now. Okay, so hopefully that alleviates some concerns. Some of you are a little bit behind. And I think this is adding on to the stress when you go to understand the poetry that isn't easy to understand. Also, some of you are trying to do the work in the middle of the night, which I don't know how you can function in the middle of the night, especially when you're trying to learn something new. So for those of you who are behind because of the internet, because of adjusting to the schedule, because of family things, I'm going to encourage you to do two things. The first thing is, on the assignments that you still have to do, prioritize the assignment of the poem choice. Finding a poem that is over 15 lines, that has figurative language, that you find on one of the three poetry websites that I suggested. If you're really struggling and this whole process is really becoming complicated, I suggest you go to Poetry Foundation, because it is the best site that also has information about the poets. So priority one, find a poem to use, because moving forward, that is our next step, looking at the poem that you chose. Your next step, if you are behind, is that you start from the beginning and you start making up those assignments. Some of you are trying to jump in without doing the first practice. You're trying to make a slam dunk before you have even tried to shoot a ball, using a basketball analogy. All right? For some of you, using a soccer mentality, you are trying to make a PK in a championship game, and you haven't even been practicing and pumped up the soccer ball so that you can be successful. Work on the first skills so that you can start cultivating this practice. So for those of you who are behind, I'm going to give you another instruction. Breathe. All right. So number 1, pick your poem. Number 2, start from the beginning and start making up those things once you've picked your poem. And number 3, breathe. All right. So for those of you who are spot on, this is going well, you are keeping up with all the assignments, my suggestion is this weekend or today, read your poem again. Try to get an idea of what is the deeper meaning of your poem. Make sure you know where some of those figurative language terms are, where the simile, the metaphor, the alliteration are. Also, look at other poetry terms and elements. What are the rhyme? All right, spend 15 minutes looking at your poem again and getting another read. Because remember, we need to read poetry multiple times. Sometimes in our practice, I'm only giving you a chance to read it once. But for this bigger project, I want you to read it multiple times. All right, hopefully for some of you who are a little bit stressed out, a little bit concerned about your grades, that will help. Keep in mind that if you've seen your grade go down in the last week, it probably was because of your compare and contrast essay that I finally wrapped up grading and getting in the grade book. If you are putting forth the work, taking my feedback, revising things, you will be doing fine on this poetry section. I guarantee it. Mrs. Han's newsletter is going out later today. Please read that. That will help you set yourself up for further success and have a little bit of a happy read. Have a good Friday. If you are behind, you know your steps. If you are on track, you know your steps too. For those of you who are behind, remember that poem choice is where you're working. For those of you who are good to go, remember, you'll find your poem in that document. All right, see ya.